Hello, good evening, and welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and those who identify otherwise. I'm Oliver Anderson, Mr. One of Oliver, and joining me behind the cameras, as always, our grandpa, Chris Hill. Welcome to the fifth and final round of the mighty Tuesday evening sprint series, season 9 to be precise. Well, we'll be racing at Valencia, which technically would be called Ricardo Tomo Race Circuit, something like that. But let's just stick with Valencia. I think that's what most people know this track as. Both the Pro Championship and the Silver Championships have been clinched before heading into this round, with Michael Thomas clinching Pro with basically 4 wins so far this season. Also quite weird that he have first place as a dropped round so far. But he could go for the perfect season, taking wins in all of the championships. Tej Fredriksen have also clinched second in the Pro Championship, just putting that out there to all of you guys so that you know. A bit unfortunate that it's so tight, but not clinched further down that in the Pro standings. In the Silver Championship, Patrick Blisters have clinched the first spot and winning the championship, and it's somewhat close that Brem Loop have clinched second, but yeah, technically if he does retire and Brem Loop wins the race and stuff like that, a lot of things could potentially happen with that, but that's basically what needs to happen for Brem Loop not to take second in silvers. In the AM Championship though, Sjouk Vivard leads with Scavaligali in second, and Scavaligali could potentially go for this one. He does need to win it though. Well, if he wins, then Sjouk Vivard can finish no higher than second, obviously. But if he finishes second, then it will be a points tie. And if he finishes, or Sjouk Vivard finishes further down than second, then Scavaligali will take the championship. If Sjouk Vivard beats Scavaligali, then it will be Sjouk Vivard who takes the AM class. So a lot of things to look out for this evening, at least in that category. And then of course we have the overall stuff and stuff like that, but we'll probably get into that later on. But Valencia, interesting track. Let's see if we can get a track guide up and running. Ooh, fancy for the final time this season. No, I wasn't ready myself. Heading into turn 1. I'll try to pronounce the names of the corners just for the lols. Turn 1 will be as par, one of the many track cut risk corners around this track. I'm not going to mention every single one of them. Very high speed, but not a big braking zone, so not the best overtaking opportunity into turn 2. Duhan, named after the I think motorcycle driver I would expect, before turns 3 and 4. 3 just being a 4-speed kink, and a 4 we have seen many different lines over the last couple of seasons, and a lot of lines are possible to take. Track limits place as well. Same goes for 5. Turn 4 was the Nico Tirol corner before heading up to 6. The Angel Nieto. Very important to get this one right because it sort of sets the pace onto the back straight. Coming into the kink of turn 7. De la Afición, let's just say that. Before heading into turn 8, the almost long hairpin, almost 180-degree corner. Bernard Martinez, that will be before the 9 and 10, the quick left and right handers before heading into a surprisingly hard-braking zone. We've seen many drivers run wide over the years. Xiaomu Marcia corner, the turn 11 going through here. Again, track limit corner before heading into 12. One of my favorite corners in all of GT3 racing because it's so risky to go through. Champi Heros, it's called. Gearing down, hard on the brakes, and then turning in just right. You can win and lose so much time around there. Through 13, the long left-hander will actually start braking while still being in the corner before heading into Adrian Campos, turn 14, the final. Can't see the pit entry on the right-hand side. Drivers have misinterpreted where the pit line is on this track before, though it is quite easy. It's quite late, but that's something that have happened. And bringing the keys to the race will be presented by Evil Twin. So, Evil Twin, what are the keys to the race? No track limits. So, yeah, that's are that the only keys to the race? Yes. So, okay, so no track limits. That is the main key to this race, apparently. Yeah. Let's see if that sticks on. We have seen track limits, of course, being an issue here before. A lot of drive-thrus have been dished out by the game. Remember, 3 track cuts, and then the 4th one will be the drive-through penalty. Something that could play in a factor. We have seen good and bad drivers take them before. Race deciding even from time to time. And that's the main thing. Even if you're out there in the front, racing your own race in the lead, as soon as you start not focusing 100% on being fast, if you start changing it up a little bit, going a little bit more safely, then you might still turn in at your normal braking zones or normal turn-in points, even though that you're coming in slower to the corners, and that's why you'll cut on the inside or get something wrong on the outside. So that is definitely worth putting out there. And this being the final, yes, please, Mr. Hill. This being the final race of the season, a lot of other things are going on in the SSRI at the minute. For instance, the Sunday Championship, maybe? I don't know what's coming up first in the calendar things. Yes, the Sunday Championship starting off on the 1st of June at Alton Park before Mount Panorama, Snetterton, Silverstone, and Watkins Glen. A very, very tricky calendar with both Alton, Mount Panorama, and Snetterton being super difficult tracks to drive. So that surely will be a Drivers' Championship where the best driver will undoubtedly win. Go sign up for that on thesimgrid.com and join our championship fun here at SSRI. We also have, yes, Season 10 of the Tuesday evening or Tuesday night sprint series. The one that's all about winning. Huge calendar coming up next season. Starting off at Brands Hatch. Great racing circuit. We have seen weather play a big factor there in previous seasons, so that surely could be interesting. Imola in the second one. Again, super tricky track, high speeds, a lot of areas where you risk everything, going through the corners every lap because you lose so much by going safely. Laguna Seca being round 3, super tight and technical track with the corkscrew, of course, involved in that. So 3 tracks early on in the season with not that great of overtaking opportunities, maybe a little bit on Imola. But then for the 2 final rounds of the season, Spa-Francorchamps and the Red Bull Ring, so we will definitely be seeing a lot of action on those 2 tracks. Spa being one of my favorite tracks personally to watch motor racing. I think I've driven it a bit too much in the last many years for me not to know it perfectly in and out. So I'm personally not practicing that much for Spa races, but some of the drivers might if they are in championship hunts at that point. Red Bull Ring, always an interesting one. It's such a short track, so even though it's a mandatory pit stop race with the tire changes in at the Red Bull Ring, taking your pit stop at the right time will be crucial not to come out into traffic, both for the leaders to avoid running into slower traffic down the field, but also for the back mouse to avoid coming out into blue flags. So that surely will be one to look out for. The third championship that we have going, which is technically not starting soon because we are in the middle of the championship almost. We will be when we are halfway through the next round. That will be Sebring in the Le Mans Ultimate Championship, the SLMS by Coach Dave Delta. Happening every other Wednesday. Next race will be next Wednesday, the 28th of May. we will go racing at Sebring. Technical and difficult track with, of course, the old concrete straight and concrete corner, the final corner, and the start-finish straight away there. Will be super interesting to see how the hypercar drivers handle that and the traffic with the GT3s, and how those two classes will race together on that track. We haven't seen any of the more, I would say, technical tracks so far this season. You could argue that Monza is technical because it's so tight and you have to get it so right all the time or you'll run right into gravel, but yeah, interesting to see how Sebring will go for all of these drivers out there. Again, sign up for the championships on thesimgrid.com and try and snatch yourself a spot in something in any of our championships. Of course, the preseason testing are required for the GT3 championships to put you in the correct driver category. Like here on Tuesday evenings, where we have the pros, the silvers, and the AIMs running. So yeah, if you're interested, go have a little bit of a look at that, as we're getting ever so slightly closer to qualifying here at Valencia. We have actually already started qualifying. Looking at championship winner Michael Thomas, who have showed up for the final round, even though he technically didn't need to. But he is going for the ultimate clinch, stealing away all of the races, the perfect season. Though we haven't had pole in all of the race, I'm not entirely sure. I think Tesh snatched one away from him. And then he haven't had fastest laps in all of them either, but perfect race win-wise, 100% win percentage so far this season, so that will be interesting if you can keep that going here at Valencia. We haven't seen the Mustang racing too much here at Valencia, as the Mustang are rather new to ACC, so that will be good to see how that handles this track. On board with Michael Thomas in the bottom right hand picture, as he is going through the track into the tricky right hander. Already forgot the names of all of the corners, so pardon me while I look that up. That's the Champi Heros, of course it is. What else should it have been? As he's coming around the final corner to start his first flying lap, I believe. And do remember, as always, the YouTube chat is open if you have questions, and we'll try and answer as many of them as possible, or just commenting your favorite driver, as we assume that Miss Van Melis, she would enjoy to see Bas do well this evening with his team of pay drivers, of course, and the Mode 11 team. Liam Walsh having provisional pole so far with a 1:30.8. Fredriksson in second and von Liebenstein in third, who took the Sunday evening championship after the final round at Kota last Sunday. So one champion racing here already from this season. And what a great race, by the way. Go find that on YouTube. Even though there wasn't that many drivers that turned up for it for some reason, it was still very, very intense and everything was up for grabs. Von Liebenstein definitely with a full push lap this time around. The Honda does look good around here. The curbs are not that high, so I feel like the mid-engine cars, especially the Honda that used to be so tricky to drive, especially on the curbs, could be a good shout out for a potentially top car around here. They'll never count out the Mustangs of Tess Fredriksson and Michael Thomas. Fun fact: the Mustang also won the silver championship, being Patrick Blisters taking that one, finishing it last time with a strong result. From the front of the Honda of Samuel von Liebenstein, runs way wide there, and that's definitely not good for his qualifying lap, of course, as that will be invalid, and he lets a Ferrari go through. Might have been the Ferrari. Jordi Peters goes faster than von Liebenstein and takes provisional pole in his Porsche 992. Lion Speed GP on that car looks actually quite nice. The red and white liveried Porsche, as he flies around Sector 1. Waldslin though, top 6 within a second, but again with the track limits, not that many cars have actually put in a lap time so far. Only 19 drivers have successfully set a flying lap so far, with Lamers in 19th. a mere 4 seconds behind Jordy Peters currently, but he can definitely improve on that. And if not, it's also fair because it is a very, very challenging track once you get into it. Tess Fredriksson into 5th, just under half a second behind Jordy Peters. Liam Walsh on a reasonable lap so far in the PS UK car. Blue, white and black livery on it. Yellow flags being shown. That was the 42 that finished the lap and went into the pits. Mockery who did that, currently in the pits, but he'll definitely be leaving soon to get going. Do remember, qualifying is all about setting the fastest lap time possible to determine the grid for the race. You can go into the pits as many times as you would like. Return to garage is allowed. But there's still a lot of different strategies usually in qualifying. Some drivers like to just fuel the car, go out there, put lap times in during the entirety of the qualifying session. Others will go for a certain amount of laps during a qualifying stints, basically Walsh over the line, almost pole position or provisional pole, with just half a tenth behind Jordy Peters. Tess Fredriksson also on a good laps currently, running around. But as I was saying, other drivers, they like to take it into stints. Some drivers do 2 stints of 10 minutes. Others, they will basically go out, have the out lap / warm up lap, and then go straight into the pits. Oh, well, not go straight, but then do a flying lap and then back to the pits to have the freshest tires all the time, or as fresh tires as possible all the time. But that's a choice of preference. Not all drivers do the same, of course, but yeah, let's see who does what. Fredriksson definitely ran too wide there, losing the lap, going into the garage, out of fuel and out of luck. And also, if you invalidate that, then your next lap won't count as well, so you might as well come in for a fresh set of Pirelli tires, or virtual Pirelli tires, we should probably say, as they are not technically real. Mick Schillikens in the Alpha Simsport car, the 39 Ferrari, good livery in that as well. I do enjoy the fancy colors. On a reasonable lap as he comes through Angel Nieto corner, the turn 6. Whoa, having a bit of a slide there. He will lose a lot of time on that as he came onto the back straight. Losing speed, any speed onto any of the straights on any track, are of course a crucial part of racing. If you do that, then you lose so much. It's not that important losing a few kilometers if you're just going flat out for 100 meters, but 500-600 meters, then you are a little bit down on time, then you'll lose out quite a lot on that. Schillikens looks good through Tempi Heros. Comes into the in the penultimate corner, coming to the final corner. I think the long left-hander at the end there, that could technically be a super long kink, maybe some would say, as he goes into the pits. Probably with an invalid lap or no improvement after all. Castelli jumps up to 11th in his Ferrari. Running Italian colors. He might have actually swapped cars since last race. I'm not entirely sure that we have at least seen this livery before, but he definitely have. So he's in the Ferrari for the final race. Came from Porsche and jumped over to the Italian manufacturer, which means that there are not that many Porsches out there, but it is currently a Porsche that's leading the qualifying standing, so might not have been the smartest of choices, as the Porsche seems quick around here. But a Ferrari very close behind with Liam Walsh in P2. Steve Parker further down the field, the Drift King himself, coming around the track. Also worth noting, if the race would finish as it started, then in aim there would be a points tie for first between Scavaligali and Sjouk Vivart. So they will definitely be trying to get an upper hand on one another in this race. Steve Parker rounds the final corner. Turn 14, Adrian Campos, as he comes across the line. At some point he went across the line. 1.9 behind the current leader. Still very close though, all over the field. a lot of the drivers will need about a tenth or less than a tenth to improve massively in this qualifying session. So all to play for out there, and it does matter a lot if you're starting 8th or 16th. Big difference as you have to pass 8 cars out on track. Nart Cox in the 999 car, the Dark Sky Racing entry. He did fail himself last time out at Zandvoort, where he somehow managed to set a qualifying lap time, as he does enjoy going out there and starting from the back, working his way through the field. Being sort of a dark horse, they're always trying to see how many places that he can recover. And tonight will be a good opportunity for that, as it is a 75-minute race, so potentially could come up through the field and do quite nicely. We have seen him recover to well within the top 10, even top 5 from time to time. Nart Cox is a quick driver. But yeah, let's see how he goes this time around, if he remembers to invalidate all of his laps. Shouldn't be too difficult around Valencia, as you can validate on the start-finish straight by just running either super wide in the final corner or going on to the red and white part there, as you see on the right-hand side. Nart Cox comes up to the line. And no lap time this time either. Michael Thomas also not with a lap time. Maybe he'll go from the back as well, as he's just currently sat in the pits doing nothing. I wonder if Michael is not going for the full maximum points to become the first driver ever in Simsport Racing International history to do so, but or whether or not that he will actually come out and try for a qualifying lap. Maybe he'll just join Nart Cox in the run through the field. If he does, it will be interesting to see who recovers the most positions in this race. Brian Scheckerman in 23rd position. It is so tied up through the field. They have separated nicely between the pros and silvers, except for Scheckerman, who sat here in the 23rd. But it is so tight that it could just be a matter of this not being a good track for Scheckerman. As I say that, he obviously he jumps up to 14th position, and again just a few thousands behind Bas van Millis in 13th. So these hundreds, they really do matter around here, it seems like. They matter as much as always. Also good to see Scheckerman still in the Porsche. I think he has driven a Porsche for actually quite a few seasons at this point. It seems like a Porsche driver almost, with the 911 being the number of choice on the 911 race car. So I feel like the Porsche factory would be proud of him for selecting their racing number on their car. As he runs around car 24, that was von Liebenstein, jumps back to the pits. As Scheckerman still goes around through the something Heros, Campus Heros. What did we call it? Champi Heros. Yes, of course, the easy to pronounce names. Maybe we shouldn't go racing in Spain anymore. Go to Azerbaijan instead, that'll be way easier. Wish we could. Cohen Geens have finished a strong Sector 1, coming through the hairpin of Sector 2, the turnaround point, and coming into Champi Heros. Onto the long left-hander of 13, and then into 14, the tricky braking zone. Most drivers will go a little bit more narrow nearing the end of 13 and straighten the count for the braking, but Cohen Geens keeps it on the outside all the way through, and across the line he goes. Jumps himself up into 17th position. Do you look at that behind? If you can catch a tow from a car behind, especially when you're finishing your lap time, that could be huge for you, or catching a slipstream when you're starting a lap and being lucky that the car ahead of you will validate and go wide somewhere. That could give massive time gains around here. Wouter Vincent, the DDS racing car, finishes a lap and pulls off at the end of the main straight away. Liam Walsh have jumped at Jordy Peters, and look at that, 3 drivers within a tenth of a second. In the front, Jordy Peters Liam Walsh and Tess Fredriksson not in that order. All of the drivers out on track. I do believe that Fredriksson just have left the pit lane to start his final running out there. 3 minutes 16 to go, so the drivers in the pits could potentially still go out there and start a flying lap or two if they're quick about it. Well, they could easily start two, to be honest, but it is what it is. Liam Walsh trying to improve with a perfect lap time so far of 1 minute 30.5. Exactly 5,000 or 500 thousandths of a second as he comes over the line. Does improve by a perfect 50 thousandths of a second, but that could be the determining thing later on in qualifying. Chris Winning currently set in 6th position behind Arf and Van Liebenstein, Fredriksson, Peterson, Walsh in front of him. As Walsh came into the pits, he could still go for one more lap. But Chris Winning through the hairpin, he goes in his Aston Martin, best placed Aston so far this evening. Going for good pace, you can see the advantage of the Aston. It does run a little bit wide there through Campos Ceros. But you can see that Aston, it is quite good on the curbs usually. Or Champieros, sorry. It is quite good on the curbs usually, the Aston Martin. And we did see it take a lot of it before across the line. He goes and improves into 5th. Wasn't he 5th before? I think he improved and overtook Arf there. And yeah, it doesn't look like that Liam Walsh wants to go out and try to improve his lap time. It is getting to the point where it would be too late to leave the pit lane. So drivers in the pits, they are done with qualifying. And quite a few of them actually in the pits. So that's early for a lot of drivers. Party is currently set in 11th place in his Ferrari, the Alpha Simsport 195 Ferrari. That would be the Polish driver of Jordi Parties. I was just about to look where he sits in the championship standings. I will just have a quick look for everyone out there. That's either I've missed him or he sits quite far down. I think I missed him. Am I in the wrong? Oh, there he sits in 14th in the Pro Championship with a season high of 8th place. Actually, last time out, he have improved every race. 18th from round 1, then 17th, then 10th, then 18th. So if the trend continues, he will be well up there with a good point scoring position. As he will be on his final lap as well. When the qualifying timer hits 0, then the drivers can finish the lap that they are on, but not start a new one. Close whether or not that Alderman can start one more. He does manage to start another lap if he have fuel for it. Doesn't look like as he pulls away, so qualifying have ended. Just the drivers out there still on a flying lap left to go. Car 17 of Castili will be the last driver to set a lap time. Tess Fredriksson are the best placed driver. Still out there on track, currently set in 3rd position. Just over a 10th behind Liam Walsh. But at that final 10th, that's always so difficult to find. Especially in qualifying when you have already pushed it to the max, but you're still just trying to find that little bit of extra time. Also, the FSR team would be Fredriksson Sim Racing. Of course, it would be. Wondered about that a little bit early on, but yeah, team name there for the Norwegian driver as he heads through the final corner. Does run a bit wide there, but I think it's still good. Porsche behind will not be on an improvement either. So Liam Walsh across the line, jumps Jordi Peters there by a 100th of a second. But yeah, very, very tight. 3 drives within a 10th at the front of the field. So it's going to be Liam Walsh in front of Tess Fredriksson and Jordi Peters in the top 3. As qualifying has ended with Milan Dumark coming over the line. which also means that we'll be heading into a little bit of a short break leading into the race. The not so many commercial break. I think this is the only commercial break in the world without commercials, so yeah, enjoy! maybe unmuting myself would be a good idea. But as I was saying to myself apparently before, the drivers are in their final preparations before the race. Looks to be good racing conditions for at least the start of this race. Rain have been at least on the cards this evening, but not a guarantee. The starting grid from 1st to 10th will be, as a lot of drivers are going to be going through, will be Liam Walsh taking pole position with Michael Thomas not putting in a lap time at all, just putting it out there. Tej Fredriksson in 2nd, Jordy Peters in 3rd, Samuel van Liebenstein in 4th, Chris Winning in 5th, Arf in 6th, Van der Kran in 7th, Odelman in 8th, Castili in 9th, and Benjamin King rounds out the top 10. Pole sitter in the silver class will be Mick Shelligans with Loop 2nd there, and Wouter Vince in 3rd. And Scouty Garley does so far what he needs to do to claim the AM championship, putting it on pole for the AM drivers. Blister's not with the best of qualifying though, and but again he have already clinched the silver championship, so that shouldn't be too much of an issue for him. He's just out there having a blast of a race and enjoying himself here in the final round. As the drivers are coming around, trying to get that last bit of heat into the brakes and tires before the race goes green. Maybe adjusting a few things on the MFD, setting up pit stop strategies and stuff like that, if they haven't done before the race. So that is what we are waiting for, all of the drivers coming around, listening to the cars slowly roar around the track. This should be the slowest they'll be going through all of these corners all day. And Liam Walsh gets to enjoy the perfectly clear track ahead of him. Perfect track conditions for racing, 30 degrees ambient track on 37, maybe a little bit warm. And that could be a thing to look out for tire-wise. So some drivers might choose to come in and take tires in the pit stops, as well as always in the 75-minute races. We have a mandatory pit stop, but you only need to take fuel. Tires are optional, as we are coming around the final corner for the final time in the slow speeds. First time in the actual race session. Heading down the long start-finish straight. Which means for the final time this season, ladies and gentlemen, those who identify otherwise, we are about to be racing! Looks like a good start there from Tej Fredriksson, who seems to be able to outdrag Liam Walsh coming into the first corner and takes the initial lead of the race, but he is on the outside line though. Covers it off nicely, and that is Tej Fredriksson who takes initial lead of the race. Now Cox already making progress and some scuffling further down the field already through the high-speed turn 1. A challenging track early on, or challenging corner to have as the first one. You're going in there and there's technically only one good racing line through. Not being in that will lose you a lot of time. I think there was Cohen Geens involved in that. As the grid order is slowly sorting itself out as we have passed, as we are passing the first sector of the racetrack. It was Cohen Geens and Conti involved in that one early on. But yeah, Tej Fredriksson leads, Liam Walsh and Jordy Peters in 3rd, Van Liebenstein 4th, Winning 5th, Arf 6th, Castili 7th, Van der Kran 8th, King 9th, and Parties makes it up to 10th early on in the race. As they're still going strongly, following Nart Cox in the bottom right hand picture, as he is making good progress already through the heavier end of the field, which he needs to be making up a lot of positions early on if he wants a strong result here. But Jordy Peters in the main frame, currently in 3rd as they head down the start-finish straight for the first time in the race. Worst position spin here would be 1st, as you have absolutely no slipstream. The rest of the field are sort of in slipstream range. Could look like a battle for 6th is brewing as well, but no one close enough to Tej Fredriksson first time around. On board on the hood of Jordy Peters as we go through turn 2, the Duhan corner. Not that big of a difference in lines so far. Through 3 we go. Still close together, not much separating the top 3. No one have really managed to stick out so far, as the 2, 4, 7 car have gone into the pits and looks to be staying there, at least for the moment. Could be the first retirement of the race. That's a Brem Loop in the contention for a good result in I think the silver class it was. But look at that, Jordy Peters all over the back of Liam Walsh, who haven't seemed to put the qualifying pace into practice here. Over the back of Walsh there, coming into the hairpin, but not quite close enough, and lost a bit there by having to brake a little bit extra. As we see the Honda go sliding through the corner behind. The Honda, of course, driven by Samuel von Liebenstein. Onto the start-finish straight once again. Still not much between the top 3, as they're running like perfect pearls in a line. Into turn 1 once again. Look at that, how close that Walsh got there down the main straight. Not quite close enough to go for it into turn 2, but that could be something that we'll see later on in the race, trying to set it up into turn 1, forcing the other driver to go defensive. Then you'll have a great run into 2 if you get that to work for you. Super tight between the top 3 still early on. No gaps larger than a second from 1st to 5th. And then again from 6th and all the way down through the field. They are super tight from 6th and down. A lot of position changes to be expected there. Schilliken's the first one to drop out of the second of the car, head further down than 6th, and he's all the way down in 15th. The 2-9-3 have had a little bit of a spin. It looks like Cohen Gein's making good progress. Steve Parker also dropping to the back of the running order. It's a little bit of a game of cat and mouse at the minute between Walsh, Fredriksson and Peters. As it looks like that Fredriksson made a little bit of a mistake there that could potentially give Walsh the opportunity down the front straight away. As Walsh takes a narrower line, looks to be getting a little bit more speed through the final corner. Strong on the running. Looking at Michael Thomas, who have cleared Bas van Melis. Bas have also... no, that's just Michael Thomas having had a super start already up into to 12th position. With Bas being demoted to 13th. So Michael Thomas and that gaggle, if he can continue this pace overtaking, he could potentially be in for a podium contention. It would be crazy though, starting so far down the field, but it could happen for Michael Thomas. As I don't know how good his start was, but that must have been a mighty start there for Michael. Still untouched though in the big picture in the bottom right hand frame. That would be Fink, Partis and Benjamin King and a lot of other drivers of course in that close gaggle. But Partis the main car that we are following there on the cameras. In the Ferrari that would be. But just look at the battling down in the midfield, but also here in the front end. It is so hard to get the overtakes done at this point. If the car head doesn't make a mistake, then it's sort of really difficult, as we see there in the bottom right hand picture. Partis almost with the move on Benjamin King. But yeah, all of the cars ahead of you does have the slipstream, and so do you. Look at that, not even a car length between the top 3, almost coming through the final corner. Which also puts Jordy Peters into a perfect situation to go for it on Liam Walsh. Chooses to stay behind, backs out of it into 1. I think that Peters knows that it's not the place to do it, because they would do so much time to test Fredriksson that it might have been better race as he goes for it now. Better race strategy wise to go for it through 2. Peters on the inside gets the move done, and poles hitter Liam Walsh into 3rd. Jordy Peters also with the fastest lap time of the race so far, now up into 2nd as he got that massive toe there, but Walsh is not done yet. He's still hanging in there, losing massive time to Fredriksson now. He gets a lot of breathing room as the two of them go side by side there. Peters and Walsh onto the back straight, but Jordy Peters have made the move done. But at this point, next time they go down the front straightaway, Peters will not have the slipstream advantage on that much of a slipstream advantage from Tess Frederiksen, which means that Liam Walsh could get a great run down the start-finish straight if he can manage to stay close enough to Jordy Peters here through the last parts of Sector 2 and then Sector 3, of course. Sector 3 only consisting of 3 corners, going through the first of them here, and the second one being a full-speed section, and then just one more time on the brakes. But this have put a little bit of a life. Ooh, big crash further down the field. Michael Thomas makes great progress through the Moses effect. Didn't see exactly who that was, but a little bit of an accident there. Michael Thomas sneaks his way quite far up the field now. Let's see when they come across the start-finish line. There we go, Thomas up into 8th position already. Oh, the gaps are starting to form. That's about, what would that be, 10 seconds-ish, maybe 11, 12, that you'll have to catch up to the car set as Michael Thomas on the move already on parties. And making stick as a little bit of contact there between Parties and Thomas, but Thomas managed to hold on, and Parties gets bumped around a bit there after the contact. But Michael Thomas up into 7th as Parties drops all the way behind Benjamin King down to 12th after that little bit of a skerfuffle there. Difficult, almost NASCAR style racing at the minute. A big game of chess at this point. Going for a move and not succeeding could cost you a potential position or two the other way around, so you have to be careful about when you try to put in your moves. 2 cars in the pits. I think Martin van der Kraan was involved in one of the instances. He have gone into the pits early, might being the 2nd car retiring from the race. He could still go out on track though. It's all up to Thomas, or up to van der Kraan himself, whether or not that he recovers the car. Peters there, it looked like Walsh had a good exit, but had to lift off the throttle to avoid running into the back of Peters, which means that Peters have the position secured down the back straight. And they are catching up to Tess Frederiksen in the front ever so slowly. Another car out for a spin going into the pits. That was the 777 or 17 or 7 or something like that, and he have definitely retired, left the server already. It's a big incident there, it must have been. But Van Liebenstein have been invited into this race as well. By virtue of all the fighting up ahead. Maybe Van Liebenstein just needed a little bit of time to get into the rhythm around here at Valencia, as he is definitely in the mix for the top 4. Chris Venning also not that far behind. In the bottom right hand picture, that would be Mick Schelikens that we are looking at the minute, right in the middle of the long line of cars. In the big chess game, that is start-finish straight. That really does help the field stay close together, as even if you lose half a second someplace in the track, you can just slipstream your way back up to the cars ahead of you. Schelikens could potentially start thinking of the move on Odelman, because Odelman is not quite close enough to Parties to get big advantage of the slipstream, even though that they're going almost 3 wide just up ahead of him. That I could lose them a bit of time and speed. Bas involved in that skerfuffle as well. Bas definitely tucked into the slipstream now, but it didn't get the best of runs, so he'll be under pressure from Benjamin King behind, coming into turn 1. Let's see what happens. No one going for the move. They choose to stay in line. But into turn 2, Bas could face the difficult times of having to defend them. Not really this time around, as it didn't look like that Parties got the best of runs through 1 there. So Bas stays in 11th, just 1 position away from top 10, which would be a strong result for Bas van Melis in this evening's event. But now look at that, Schelikens on the outside of Bas, but not quite. Needed about half a car length more to really challenge for the position, but look how close they're going down the back straight. Big pressure this time, but again, not quite close enough. That Mustang just have enough grunt down the down the straight to defend these positions. That's a Partis on Bars. It looks like King have gone away. Of contact have been made between Partis and Bars, and Partis gets spun by Ottoman as well. As it looked like Partis was trying to stay on the brakes to avoid further contact with Bars, but then Ottoman came. Wasn't quite aware already for the braking of Partis there, so now Bars is sort of not under pressure from Partis anymore, at least. Up near the front, Jordy Peters on the attack on Tesh Fredriksson still, as he have closed the gap so much between them, and already invalid lap times for all of the cars behind, almost in the train. Bars dropping quite a bit down. I wonder if not gone into the pits, but he might have just lost a little bit that, dropping out of the running order, and therefore losing all of the positions. If you lose one here, then you'll quickly lose a bunch other. Also looks like from Ottoman and down there, so close there as well, but Jordy Peters in the hunt for the race lead, running a little bit wide there, could try and set up the cutback, but not quite, as he gets pressured by Liam Walsh from behind after that small mistake into the hairpin. But once again, he runs wide there, Peters, and this time Liam Walsh takes full advantage of that, as Mick Shelikans have gone around in the background also, or quite far down the track, but now it's Liam Walsh into second that gives chase to Tesh Fredriksson. So just as it was initially after the start of the race, will Partis have enough? Doesn't look like it this time down the start, finish straight, as von Liebenstein is always right behind, following in closely, so Peters could... no, von Liebenstein not quite close enough to do anything about that. Peters not hitting the apex this time around. I wonder if the tires on that Porsche have already overheated. It seems to be a little bit struggling keeping it pinned on the apex of the corners. Also maybe just a little bit of frustration losing out that second position and having a Walsh ahead of him now. So yeah, it's settling in a little bit in the front of the field. Even though any other day we would call this an intense battle, but it seems like they have gone a little bit into to rhythm, the three of them out in front, with the off chance of von Liebenstein right behind. We do know that Honda is a little bit difficult with the tires, about keeping the pressures under control, but certainly the temperatures and the wear of the tires on that Honda, that can be a little bit extreme. So whether or not that von Liebenstein can keep up the pace through the whole of the race, we'll have to wait and see. As we see the cars almost with a bit of a four-wheel slide there through Champi Heros. Onto the start-finish straight once again. Still not quite there. The drivers might be starting to think a little bit about pit stop strategy. Not quite there yet though, and I think if they stop now they would come into heavy traffic, the top three. This could be decided on how much fuel the cars have to take and whether or not that they take tires in the pits. Definitely too early for any strategy at the minute, except I would say if you're in that big gaggle of train, then you could potentially come in now for the super undercut, just taking that tiny bit of fuel you would need to go to the end. And then getting into free air and clean air, and then not having to deal with all of the cars around you. Further down the field, that's Sjouk Vivard with an Ford Mustang running quite wide directly ahead of him. So I'll just have a little bit of a sip of the racing tea. Racing tea. I feel like that should be tradition for everyone to have a little bit of tea when watching these evening races. Some might say it's the best way to watch Tuesday evening races. I wish it was Saturday already. Big kerfuffle there, and Sjouk Vivard not happy with Cohen Gein's overtake there. Mick Shelikans in this battle as well. Same goes for Bas Familis right behind Cohen Gein's on the outside of Mick Shelikans, or Shelikans on the inside rather of Cohen Gein's, and makes the move done. Bas also on the attack on the other DDS car, that's Peter Brooklyn. behind. As I'm getting a little bit of a lag there, Peter Brooklyn in the Outlaren, I think we should call it. Audi McLaren, Outlaren. Everyone gets what I'm saying, of course. But yeah, Bas making progress once again through the field. Trying to recover as many spots as possible at this point for Bas. It has been a little bit of a recovery race. That bright orange car apparently wasn't visible enough for his competitors. Next man up for Bas would be Partis, who was involved in that scuffle as well. Bas goes to the inside into turn 1. Or he does force Partis to leave the room. So this is a straight drag race into turn 2. Remember, Bas will have the inside line into 2. Little bit of an argy-bargy there, but nothing wrong with that. Bas makes the move on Partis, which means next finishes as it stands at the minute. Then Lagali and Shukvivard will be tied on points coming out of this race, which would be huge for the championship implications. But Bas made the move. Whether or not that he can keep Partis behind, only time will tell. But it is definitely an option, or well, something that could happen, as I'm just trying to just assure myself that my maths are correct, and it is. Ooh, that's Oldman that have been around in the hairpin. Oldman dropping down into 18th position behind Blister's silver championship winner. And Skavlagali, who's in the chase for the AM class, with Scheckerman on the outside of Ordelman. Scheckerman missing that braking just a little bit, but that means, look at that, that's Scheckerman that will be overtaken by Cohen Geens now, by virtue of losing that little bit of, missing the brakes. No, not quite. That didn't look like that Geens got the best of exits there out of the final corner. So coming into one, they're still very tight behind one another. Cohen Geens and Brian Scheckerman. With Ottleman ahead, we would expect Ottleman running wide again there. I think Ottleman needs to start to be a little bit careful not to get those track cuts at this point. Ooh, Ottleman runs very wide there. I think he has some sort of trouble with the car. Could have been assisted though. There could have been a bump from Scheckerman. Didn't look like it though. But Ottleman retires also from the race, it looks like, as he goes to the pits. Not the day of Ottleman. Unfortunate for the Aston driver, who actually before going to the pits, I think he was he could have been the best Aston in the race currently. Further down the field, ooh, big wobble there from Partis. It looked like, as Bas van Melis have made his way past Shukvivard as well. And Bas, now that BMW and Mustang, they look so epic together. Big cars compared to the other GT3 machineries out there on track. Another good day for Aston Martin here on the sunny virtual Spanish racetrack of Valencia. Shukvivard though sticking with Bas, at least initially. And as long as he can do that without frustrating Bas too much, then he can maybe just take the advantage of the slipstream if he can keep up with him. Big battle here between Scheckerman and Cohen Geens. But Geens is way too close to Scheckerman there, and Scheckerman not leaving the inside open there for Cohen Geens, so Cohen had to run a little bit wide there, going off front in the middle of the corner, which led to that slide. Also the lack of downforce when you're following in close behind another car. That's also a bit of an issue into turn 1, that you get into dirty air. Without the extra downforce on the car, then you don't have the the downforce, the push force, the grip to go through as quickly through turn 1 as you would usually have. Also something that you'll have to pay attention to if you have been used to be running on your own all day, and then all of a sudden come up behind another driver. Chris Winning are the only Aston Martin remaining in the race in 5th position. Battle for P1 is still raging. Jordy Peters have dropped behind now 2 seconds up to this battling group, but Peters under pressure from both von Liebenstein and Winning. Meanwhile, the battling going on up there. Nard Cox up into 12th position. 6 behind Michael Thomas, who did the same thing in the start initially. Next man up for Nart Cox will be Shellikens, so Cox giving chase to Shellikens here. Ailing also chasing down Cox. A good pastime to do on a Tuesday evening. Of course, the two McLaren drivers. Actually, with Wout van Vincent and McLaren also just behind, so 3 McLarens on a line here behind the Ferrari of Mick Shellikens. Shellikens might not be super interested in letting Nart past here, as it is a good thing to have that buffer car from the lead of the silver class and down to P2 with one car between them. The two McLarens, but not the blue and yellow McLaren directly behind, but the two next McLarens, they will be directly for position in the silver class in this race. But this is the point for Nart, where he starts to come up against drivers that are not so easy to overtake as the first, maybe 2 or 3 drivers down the back end of the field. As we see, Nart tries both the inside, outside. He tries everything, but can't quite get the run there on Mick Shellikens, who is a bit of an experienced fox, Mick Shellikens, so he knows how to defend. But this time into the final corner, Nart could have gone for it potentially there, but chooses to stay in behind, trying to get the better exit and tucking into the slipstream. Didn't look like Nart succeeded in that, but do remember he does have the slipstream, and Mick Shellikens is without slipstream ahead of him, so he will have no cars punching a hole in the air ahead of him. So Nart Cox will have gained a bit there, running into 1, coming to 2, not quite close enough to go for the move, and Ailing super tight behind. So if Nart fails his move on Mick Shellikens, then Matt Ailing will be there ready to strike back on Nart. For Ailing, then it could also be a good opportunity to just stick with Nart when he goes for the move and try to follow him through Mick Shellikens. So he will try and get right up there with Nart, as Nart runs a little bit wide there and loses a lot of time to Shellikens ahead of him. So now Nart might actually have to defend from Matt Ailing. Not quite, but we can see Nart taking a different line through Bernard Martinez turn 8 than the other drivers around him. Onto the short straight, where I once had a little bit of a force feedback drop in the middle of the race. Not quite ideal, struggling with your hardware in the middle of races. But yeah, Nart seems to have issues getting past Mick Shellikens, which is rather interesting for the race and for Nart's progression through the field. Big gap from Shellikens and up to Benjamin King, 9.1 seconds between 10th and 11th. And speaking of Benjamin King, he's putting a lot of pressure on Castilli in the Ferrari directly ahead of him. The battle of the Italian manufacturers, Lamborghini versus Ferrari, just as it is in the front of the field. But yeah, Benjamin King on 10th position. He will be looking for the move if an opportunity presents itself. But only if it is difficult finding that extra 10th. One thing is to catch up to the driver ahead of you, another thing is to overtake, and then just sticking with the driver also as soon as you get into that dirty air. Of course, on a track like Valencia, it might be an advantage being close to another car, as you do have the advantage of that huge slipstream down the front straightaway. Further down the field, big battles also. This is Wout van Vincent, Matt Ailing, and Muraki, or Mokri will be the name, not Muraki. Why I'm calling him that? I've been calling him that all season. Mokri, of course, involved in this one. Mokri and Vince here. We see Mokri in the blue car behind the number 42. But look at that, Matt Ailing with a horrendous run out the final corner, side by side between Wout van Vincent and Matt Ailing into turn 1. Shook Vivart with the drive-through penalty. That could put a big spanner in his championship contentions. But meanwhile, Wout van Vincent gets the move done. on Matt Ailing there, the run into one, but will Ailing lose another one to Murkri? Ailing goes defensive, Murkri tries to cut underneath, almost succeeds in that, but not quite. Sjouk Vivart will be not too pleased with himself for getting a drive run also this early in the race. Of course it could still happen to cars ahead of him, as we have cars going around and around and around. That was Mokiri who have gone around there, losing out a lot there to Vince, having a little bit of contact as well. I think that was with Scavaligali behind, who also can't be too pleased about that, as he will need the good result to beat out Sjouk Vivart here. Vivart not dropping that far down actually, as there are not that many AM cars in the race. Vivart seems to have been stationary in the pits, or seems to be stationary in the pits. He's not really moving. Have he gone for a pit stop instead of a drive-through? He might have. He is not moving in the pits, which could put this directly into the hands of Scavaligali. But then it becomes a matter of drop results and all sorts of things that we have to count on. But yeah, pit stops are coming at the minute. It is also the time to do the big undercut, which leaves Scavaligali alone running there in 15th and leading the race now a full lap ahead of Sjouk Vivart. So let's go have a look at the championship standings just rather quickly, because the gap is 5 points between them. And how many AM cars have entered this race? Do we know that, Chris? Are there only the 3 of them? Are only the 3 of them left? That means that Scavaligali will still need to actually win this race, with Sjouk Vivart then taking the 18 for 3rd, if he wants to clinch it out without it coming down to a count back. Because only 3 points between the class win and P, or well, between P2 and P3, and 3 points will not be enough, so he will need to win this. Oh, big slide there behind from Shekerman, so Scavaligali just needs to win this, but again he have a big gap down to Peter Brookland, who's running 2nd in class. And for Sjouk, he will just have to pray that something happens to Brookland in this one. But again, he should also be doing laps out there for that to be a good thing. Maybe he will give us some answers in the YouTube chat to what happened. As Nardcock still haven't found a way past Schenkelins. Up in the front of the field though, Liam Walsh also still not able to mount a full-on offense on Tesh Fredriksson. They seem to be very equal on pace, but unfortunately for Walsh, he just needs that little bit of extra time. And Tesh Fredriksson is not a driver that's prone to make many mistakes. So if Tesh makes just the slightest of mistakes, then Walsh really have to take full advantage of and be there immediately. So he'll have to get as close to Fredriksson as possible, but that will put an extra strain on his tires, of course. So that will become a huge factor in this race. The field have finally started to spread out just a little bit further behind. Also, Michael Thomas not making progress almost at all on Chris winning. The last couple of laps not only going up by 6/10 of a second quicker than Chris winning over the last 2 or 3 laps in total. So he seems to be struggling a bit as well. But this battle rages on between the top 2. This is also the best chance for these drivers to get a race win this season, as both Tesh Fredriksson and Liam Walsh are without the race wins. Of course, with Michael Thomas being the only one winning the races so far this season, it's not that surprising that they are lagging behind on that front. But yeah, look how close they are, so equally matched. 2 Duelans locked together in combat, like 2 Top Gun fighting pilots. up against each other on the final day of Top Gun Academy. Getting ready to go into actual combat in the skies of wherever global conflicts appear. Down the main straight, it looks like that Walsh is quite close to Fredriksson this time. Could set it up into 2, but it does require for Fredriksson to make a tiny mistake into 1, so that Walsh can get the overspeed. But still doesn't quite look like, as Walsh goes a little bit wide. They have to be careful about the track limits. We have already seen it ruin Shukvivard's race, who's probably out there just watching now and putting his hands together. Would be a great story if he came into to take a championship win. But doesn't quite look like it as of yet. Walsh still under heavy pressure. Walsh still applying heavy pressure, this time a lot closer to Tesh Fredriksson. But again, just not quite there, but he is sticking with Tesh. But can he stay close? Gets caught out a little bit there in the dirt, yeah, it looks like as Tesh gets the better run. So that could put it into to Tesh's hands to keep that defense. Tesh, he knows where he needs to be quick, where he needs to make that gap. And I think that's what makes the whole thing here. As long as Tesh can play this this game strategically between himself and Walsh and be quick at the right places, that will be so difficult for Walsh to get this move. Chokes on the AC. That's the end of my race. Steering wheel steering wheel issues for Shukvivard. And congratulating Skivligali on the championship already, but it could be a little bit early, because if Skivligali have difficulties, issues, or even just gets a drive through and gets put behind Peter Brooklyn and Shuk gets scored for that P3 in the race, then Shuk will actually still take the win, but time will tell on that. Mick Shelikens and Nart Cox also still locked into battle. Nart still having difficulties getting past Shelikens here. He has been stuck behind for such a long time at this point. Arf and Bas van Melis going into the pits just before the halfway point, so they could potentially be going for the tire change strategy. As they'll be dropping down the order, of course, as they are saving their stops. But yeah, maybe that McLaren is a little bit lacking in top speed. Liam Walsh coming into the pits also. So that leaves Tesh Fredriksson alone out there in front. That could mean tire change for Liam Walsh by coming in so early, elsewise it could be a bit of an undercut. If none of them changes tires and Tesh can stay out there, then he'll have less fuel for the duration of the race, or the remaining parts of the race, so I think that's a tire change for Liam Walsh. Milan Dumas also came into the pits. We haven't quite reached the halfway point as of yet, though, so a tiny bit early for the optimum strategy. Here's the battle between Shekerman and Skivligali. Battle for 14th overall in the race. Love round wins into the pits also. Parties, I do think that all of the drivers coming in now are going in for the tires. Skivligali running very wide there. But again, not too much of a difficult issue for Skivligali as he goes wide once again with the dirty tires. As long as he doesn't get the track cuts, then it doesn't matter too much. Parties and everybody knows in the pit, Skivligali have gone around. That could lose him out the position to Brooklyn. Brooklyn just coming around the corners behind car number 3, also having gone for a little bit of a detour. But Oh, that is Cavaligali, of course that is. But yeah, now it's directly the car right behind Cavaligali now. RP2 currently in the AM class. So now it's a direct duel for the AM win here in the final round. That could come into play, making up for an intense finish to the season. Meanwhile, the Waltz have gone out into traffic, so that could be an issue for Waltz as he'll be losing time, having to fight his way through. This is Cohen Geens putting up a bit of a fight there with Liam Waltz, but it didn't look. Bas van Melis with the drive-through now for track limits as well. So he will be having to come through the pit lane on the pit limiter. Not optimum for the race there for Bas van Melis, but it does happen on this track, and it is most definitely not the last one. We'll see of the drive-throughs around here for the track limits. Balls up into 13 for Liam Stein and Benjamin King in the pits. Having just passed over the halfway point, Jordy Peters came into the pits and came out just ahead of Liam Walsh. So that battling with Cohen Geens might have been what cost Jordy Peters there, or might have cost Liam Walsh there in terms of a free position on Peters. Because those fresh tires that do give a huge advantage when you're running on them. Just that one lap can make. As winning also comes into the pits. Which also means Thomas will be into third, even second, as winning have gone into the pits. But yeah, still quite the distance from Thomas up to Tej Fredriksson. The two duelants from earlier this season and last season with the two big Nissans they were running there. I wonder if they spoke together before the season talking about picking the Nissan, so it was just a coincidence that the two only drivers in the Nissans was the two top drivers in the championship. But there we have the gap between Tej Fredriksson and Michael Thomas. Just over, does it say 10 or 9? It does say 10.9, doesn't it? Just over 10 seconds, almost 11 between the two of them. Not that big of a gap though. We have seen Thomas close bigger gaps in shorter times before, but it will be quite the challenge to catch up. He will probably go as good as he can, but I don't think any of those two will come in for tires in this race. It would be unlikely as we have passed the halfway point by a few minutes. It is still in the pit stop window for tire changes. So it could still happen. I would say if we go underneath the half-hour mark, then if Tej Fredriksson comes in, could be tire change, could also just be to defend track position. But I wouldn't expect anyone that leaves it more than two more laps to come in for tire changes, which means that Michael Thomas takes the lead of the race. Though Thomas will still have to do his pit stop. But if he only takes fuel though, when he can take just a splash and dash and keep up his current pace, then he could potentially challenge Tej, Peters and Walsh for the lead, as Peters and Walsh have gone into battling, as they will have to clear a little bit of traffic ahead of them. That's Patrick Blisters, the silver class championship winner, that they'll have to try and overtake coming into the final corner. Both of them getting put a little bit narrow there, so all about who's more brave on the throttle, as Fredriksson is leaving pit lane. It will be tight between them. Fredriksson out on track and can accelerate as the two cars are coming up in hot pursuit behind. Fredriksson having to obey the wide line, does keep the lead, but not by much. Look at that, how close they'll come into when we go on the brakes into turn 2. Just as close as it was in the initial parts of the race. That pit stop basically changed nothing, except it put them all much, much closer together once again. So much closer to each other. Maybe Walsh actually lost the position there to Jordy Peters from those pit stops. That could have been down to the traffic that Walsh had to fight through as he came out. At this point, we are getting into the area where I don't think any of the last 6 cars who haven't stopped yet will be coming in for tires. They could potentially be going for it to the end. I think it's a little bit risky for Skevlegali in the AM class when his direct competitor came in for the tires, because if this fails him and he runs into trouble, that he could lose out big, especially if Shuk actually gets the points for finishing the race in third, even though he is parked in the pits, because then it could cost him the championship. So very, very interesting strategy call there from Skevlegali, really leaving the tension to late on in the race. But both Michael Thomas and Nart Cox, the two drivers who started from the back, opting not to come in at the halfway point. That could lose Jordy Peters the position there to Liam Walsh, as he was so close to running into the back of Tej Fredriksson. But Walsh not quite able to take full advantage of the mistake. It did buy Tej Fredriksson a little bit of breathing room in the front. I would almost say that this is the biggest gap that Tej have had so far. Of course, not the actual front, it's still just a battle for fourth. Currently, as Michael Thomas comes into the pits, that could still mean tire change. Same for Conti, but quite late for that. Peters on board with Peters looking down from the roof of the Porsche onto the Ferrari of Liam Walsh. Ooh, Cohen Geens have been around, causing a little bit of a slow car situation. They'll be coming up to Geens in just a few seconds. Castillo and Conti into the pits as well. Ooh, there we had him. They passed him easily. I think Cohen just kept it there on the inside, being as predictable as possible, not wanting to interfere in the battle. For what could potentially be the podiums in this race. It surely looks like it at the minute. The split camera from the back and the front. Well, from the back and then the front of Walsh. Just look at it now. Walsh have the opportunity, both the car making a little bit of a mess of turn 1 there, but next to each other into 2. Really interesting camera perspectives that we get here. Let's see if Liam Walsh have it in them. They will have to fight through traffic, it looks like. Traffic just moves nicely out of the way, being as kind as they possibly could. Nart Cox have inherited the lead of the race. But I will almost guarantee at this point that Nart Cox will not win it, as he will still need that pit stop and he will drop behind these cars, giving chase behind. Walsh doing the best he can to stay with Jordy Peters. But Tej now with a 1.1 second gap down to the two of them. If they are not careful, then Tej will just run away with this once Skevlegali comes into the pits. If that's for tires, it's very late on in the race. Parker is also yet to take the stop, so only the Drift King Steve Parker and Nart Cox yet to take their pit stops. This time though, Liam Walsh very close, but can he keep it this close without running wide? Looks like it, as Peters actually goes a little bit wide there. That gives Walsh the slight opportunity, as they will have to clear traffic. That is Skevlegali, it looks like, and Bas van Melis. It is at least Bas in the Aston, and I think that is Skevlegali in the number 3 McLaren. It will definitely is Skevlegali moving out of the way nicely there, leaving the two battle duo to come through undisturbed almost. So Peters and Walsh, next man up, Bas van Melis. We do believe that Bas will probably just pull out the way as well, being as experienced as he is, not wanting to interfere with these battles. But look at that, horrendous place to catch up to Bas for the two of them. Actually big advantage there for Jordy Peters, as he could keep on the actual racing line, where the exit got a little bit disturbed from for Liam Walsh. Nothing that Bas could have done about it though, as they were just really coming for it, as Bas loses the position to Skivaligali as well in the background. Drive through for Cohen Geens also. Just putting it out there. So he picked up the other drive-through in this event, or the next drive-through in this event, we should say. But yeah, the battle for what will be P2 in this race, but currently P3, still raging between Peters and Walsh. Peters does have the fastest lap of the race though, but I do think he said that very, very early on in this one. And it does look like that the top drivers they have had difficulties overtaking this evening here at Valencia. Of course, it doesn't lend itself too well to overtaking. The best opportunity is really into turn 2 around here. If you're not reliant on mistakes from the other drivers. Turn 2 and then turn 8 could be good overtaking opportunities. Turn 6 as well. We have seen it there coming into the corner because you're so wide and there's only really one line through there. So we have seen the drivers previously launch it up on the inside, which you can do because you want to brake early on the outside line to get maximum out of the corner. But not really anything in it there. Tess Fredrickson with traffic ahead. That will be the DDS car of that's the Outlaren. Ahead of him, that's Peter Brockton, P21 in the race. Second in aim though. He will also score good points. He's actually first now in aim. What happened to Skivaligali there? Oh yes, Skivaligali had that spin. No, well, no, that's not that long ago that Bas and Skivaligali was battling. And the Skivaligali I think was it. No, I think that's after the pit stops that Skivaligali lost out big there on to Peter Brockland. So this means that if Vavard gets scored for P3 in this race and it finishes as it is, then Vavard keeps the championship in his hands. Skivaligali, he's a man on a mission, needs to catch up the 3.2 seconds and overtake Peter Brockland to secure the championship as Steve Parker comes into the pits. Michael Thomas have caught up to Samuel von Liebenstein, who was in the battle for top 4. Not too long ago, I would say about 20 minutes ago or so. He could still dream of the podiums. Even at this point, he might be a little bit too far behind to actually be in contention for those. But Michael Thomas have caught up to Samuel von Liebenstein and are in the battle for P4 in this race, starting from the back end of the field. Strong comeback performance there for Michael Thomas. Does look like that Mustang have so much grunt down the start-finish straight. The Honda has no sludge down the straight, or no slug down the straight, but that Ford Mustang just really had it there, and then of course slipstream assisted as well. Michael Thomas promotes himself into P5 currently in the race, though still Nart Cox out there leading, who is yet to take a pit stop. As Cohen Geens have come into the pits and have become stationary, it looks like. Florian Arf with that's is that Benjamin King? No, that's Milan Dumas. He is in battle with. That's Florian Arf, who's trying to stay with Milan Dumas for the overtake. We haven't seen much of Milan this evening, but now he's in the spotlight on the defense from Florian Arf. What can Dumas do here? Ooh, Florian Arf makes a little bit of a mess there of the hairpin. But again, not losing too much. He's still in that slipstream range, so he just needs the start-finish straight. And then he'll be right back up there with Milan Dumas. This might actually be a good distance if Milan makes a little bit of a mistake onto the start-finish straight, then Florian Arf is far enough back that he doesn't have to react to it and can keep his racing line in and then just slipstream his way past, but no mistake from the routine driver of Milan Dumas. He knows what to do. He have been around for a long time, Milan. So he's quite used to these races. Florian Arf is not that old in the SSRI community, but doing a good show here, putting himself into the top 10 of the race. It's hard to say where Nard will come out of the pits when he serves his mandatory pit stop, because he will probably go in and then just take the fuel, so he'll not be stationary for that long when he comes in. And that will just be a short splash and dash for Mr. Cox. Back marker traffic ahead being a Porsche. Not the Porsche of Schickerman. It is the Porsche of Steve Parker, it looks like. As Geens seems to have retired from the race as well. Sitting there next to Shukwavad in the pits after he got that drive-through Nard Cox into the pit lane, looks like. Meanwhile, Schickerman on the big defense from Parties, or well, he is ahead of Parties, so Parties on the big offense on Schickerman. Snart is already rolling. That was a very short splash and dash there for Mr. Cox. Let's see when he crosses the first timing line how far down he fell from that. Just trying to spot him. He's currently 5th, 6th. Will he stay 6th though? It looks like it. 7th, so it'll be 7th for Nard Cox as he comes across Sector 1 in just a few moments time. So a good strategy for Nard. But quite far behind Chris Winning in 6th. Also looks like Schickerman have gapped the... Or will Parties have gapped the Schickerman by a full 4 seconds. I think we're looking a bit too much on Nard there. I think Schickerman have made a little bit of a mistake since that came up that quickly, that gap. But Schillikens will be the next man up to try and catch up to Schickerman and put on the offense. Oh, that was the Parties battle, I think. Or was it did they have similar looking Ferraris? That's the issue. It could have been these two that was close together. And then it was Schickerman and Schillikens that was close together, right? Because I don't recall any spins there between from Schickerman, and losing 4 seconds in one lap. That would be a little bit rough if that's your natural racing pace. Also, quick shout outs to both Van der Kran and Steve Parker, Bas van Melis and Conti for having not the best of races, but sticking it out there. Speaking of not the best of races, Bas also causing a bit of a yellow there at the end of turn 3. Not a good evening for Bas van Melis. Gali have overtaken Peter Brooklyn, so again, if this holds out, then it is Gali that takes the AM championship. And already gapped him by 5 seconds, so Gali, the man on the mission, definitely doing well as Brooklyn have just been lapped by, I think that's Chris Winning ahead of, well, it is Chris Winning as he's the only Aston Martin still running in this event, with Conti right behind. So let's see if Conti have it in his car to overtake Brooklyn in the last 18 minutes. You would expect Conti to be a little bit quicker, but you never know. In the front of the field, Liam Walsh and Jordy Peters still racing against each other. I don't think they're racing quite yet, but they might at some point. And a lot of support out there for the 44 car. Parker, Steve Parker, the Drift King himself. So shout outs to Steve Parker, still going in the race. Haven't seen him drifting for a long time though. I think he might need to install an e-brake in these cars to get back into that. Also not the quickest way to drive a racing car, but is what it is. Steve Parker here in picture. From the S Parker Racing Team it would be. The S Parker car. Flying the Union Jack. Sits a little bit alone down in 25th. Haven't had the best of races so far. I think both a drive-through and we have seen him cause a few yellows as well. So he must have been involved in something at least in this race. But yeah, still keeping it going, and all respects to the drivers that always finishes the races. Because you never know what happens, especially on a track like Valencia. Oh no, I'm out of racing tea. Now I just have racing water. Not the same. It is not the same though. Racing tea is much better. As Parker still lapping out there consistently. But Michael Thomas down to 7.6 seconds up to this battle for second. So it doesn't take more than a little bit of a scuffle between the two of them. And then Michael Thomas would actually be on the podium, starting from the back of the field. Not that I would expect Walsh and Peters to get into a scuffle between them. It takes a bit more than Archie Bargich for Thomas to catch up, so they would need the scuffle in this one. Some say that I'm just saying random words, but they are actually racing terms. Into turn 1 we go, or yet again we go into turn 1 for the 38th time in this race. Ooh, a little bit of a slide there from Jordy Peters. If Walsh was closer, he could have probably gone for it into 2. But not quite there. So for the people out there looking at the race that might be interested in joining, head on to the simgrid.com and sign up for the championship, and head on to our Discord to get involved in the community. We are waiting for you out there. And would be happy to take anyone who wants to go racing, of course. We have both the ACC racing and the LMU championship going on at the minute. Big yellow flag out there, both the 13 and the 10 been involved in that one. That was Florian Arf and who? Yeah, 13. I think the 13 have retired now. I would have thought that Arf would have been involved in something with Milan Dumas, but no, but at least that was my initial thought, but definitely not Dumas. Was the 13 car that now have retired from the race, unfortunately. But if Florian Arf still going, drops down to 10th place though, and under not pressure for position. That's a lapped Porsche. I think that's Steve Parker right behind that have caught up to Florian Arf. It might be a little bit late in the season to start learning the actual looks of the cars and liveries and stuff like that, but better late than never, as they say. Trying to have a look for who that 13 car actually was. Figuring stuff out. Boom, 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 boom. Bas would be 11. Have Bas actually retired from the race? I think Bas would tell us in YouTube if he have, or at least on Discord. He might actually have, but I just feel like it was the 13. Could have been multiple cars involved, of course, or more than just the one or the two cars. If it was the 113 drive-through there for... it's super blurry on my screen for Shekaman. Could have been the 313 maybe, or 213. Or if it was the 113, that would have been Patrick Blisters. I actually don't think there is a 13. Yeah, the 13, no, it wasn't 13 because 13 was only selected by Tomek Grisek, so it must have been either the 213 or the 113 that got involved in that that incident. Yeah, and could have been Bas as well, as he's no longer with us. Well, in the race. I would assume he's still with us, but yeah, Van der Kran, who have caught up to Peter Brooklyn. And with Schickerman getting that drive-through, he could be put down into contention. Oh, Schickerman already out the pits. But yeah, Van der Kran catching up to Peter Brooklyn for 21st in the race. Van der Kran, who have been racing for quite a few seasons, and we always see him in this red Ferrari with the black rear end. Almost the correct Testarossa red color on the Ferrari. There's somewhat in between the Testarossa and the Marlboro red that also have a specific name that the Ferraris use in modern day racing. Van der Kran going about this as usual for him, with a lot of respect for the other drivers on track. Very careful in the overtaking, very calculated in his moves. Not pushing it too hard though with Brooklyn. He is quite a bit quicker than Brooklyn on lap times and pace, but in no rush to get this overtake done. Trying to set it up for the start-finish straight. Tucking tightly into the slipstream. It does look like that he have the overspeed, but will it be enough to pass before turn 1? No, stays behind, setting it up for turn 2 it looks like. Both cars going right. Van der Kran all the way out where it is in the track cut area. Outside, tries to switch it onto the inside. Not quite there for Van der Kran. Brooklyn doing a good job. He's not even defending Brooklyn. He's just sticking to his lines at the minute. I wonder if Brooklyn doesn't feel the pressure from Van der Kran. If he just doesn't really care about defending at all, but just keeping the racing lines is also a good way of defending, of course, trying to lose as little time as possible. Gali have really run away with the AM class this evening. Big gap between Gali and Peter Brooklyn. Roughly 20 seconds between them. Oh, this time though, Van der Kran backs out of it though through 13. Didn't want to go for it. But again, trying to set it up down the start-finish straight. This time Van der Kran running a little bit too wide. They're having to lift off the throttle. But it tucked into the slipstream. Will he try it this time down the start-finish straight? No, not quite, not quite. Backing out, staying within the slipstream range. Keeping it within track limits, it looked like that time. I think the track limits are the outside of that astroturfing. Behind Nard Cox, who are coming up to put a lap on them. Cox sat in 7th position at the minute. Let's hope Cox doesn't ram up into Van der Kran or Brooklyn here. And just glides through. But again, Brooklyn just keeping his lines, making it very difficult for Van der Kran to find a way past. Nard Cox, he does have Milan Dumas with him though, as he's coming up to Van der Kraan and Brooklyn. So we'll start to have to give that room up soon. But again, for Van der Kraan, he could potentially use the traffic to his advantage and going past Brooklyn. Oh, Bockland, not Brooklyn. Bockland. Front battle still going on for P2 between Peters and Walsh. Ooh, drive through for Florian Arf as well now. Cox and Dumas got past Van der Kraan that time around. Just leading Peter Bookland, who stays wide. They both come through, but look at that. This time, Martin van der Kraan taking advantage of the lap traffic, almost getting past Bookland there, but Bookland forced to take a very narrow line now, so Van der Kraan on the outside line. There's a lot of camber there in the corner, a lot more than you think. On the outside line, it will become inside for the next corner. Van der Kraan on it. He will have to try and go for this one now. Goes through, but Bookland being very smart, trying the cut back there, but not quite, as Van der Kraan passes Peter Bookland and moves himself up into 21st position. In this race, just 6 minutes 30 seconds to go. This race have really just passed quickly. Much quicker than expected, really, as time flies when good racing happens. Are there really any other way to spend a Tuesday evening than to watch a good bit of virtual motor racing? As we are coming out a little bit of curbing there. I wonder if still no words from Van Millis on what happened to him. Could have been a disconnect, of course. Not really sure. As a Bookland now in the slipstream on Martin van der Kraan. Van der Kraan will need to try and pull away from Peter Bookland here. He doesn't need to, but I think he wants to. We should say, as the sun have breaking its way through the clouds. And a good bit of sunshine is landing on the drivers. Florian Arf dropped to 13th after his drive-through penalty. Still with a good amount of points. That is 11th in the pro class. There were only parties and Van der Kraan behind in the pro class of the drivers still going in this event. As Bockland now have dropped over a second behind Van der Kraan, so he had his opportunities to strike back, but couldn't quite take it. He did a good job of defending the position for as long as he did on Martin van der Kraan. Meanwhile, Walsh getting super close there to Jordy Peters through turn 2, the Duhan. Walsh in the position now where he is applying a ton of pressure here in the closing 5 minutes of the race on Jordy Peters. Also, Nard Cox not able to shake Milan Dumas behind. That's also pretty interesting. And Thomas just 6.5 seconds behind the two of them. Michael Thomas have also taken away the fastest lap from Jordy Peters. So Thomas definitely with pace in that Ford Mustang, but I think it's a little too little, a little too late, really, to catch up to these guys on speed alone. But if these two continues to fight, if they go fighting side by side action, then they will lose a lot of time. Though still quite the gap, 6.5 seconds is a lot of time to lose in like 3 laps. 2 laps actually. No, 3 laps. 3 laps to go in the race. Unless if Tess Fredriksson and the entirety of the top 10 almost just comes to a complete stop to decide not to go that extra lap for us. But 3 laps to go in the race. Tess Fredriksson on the 46th lap. This will be a 49 lap race this evening here at Valencia. Oh yeah, Nart didn't take the tires. That might be why he's struggling to shake Milan Dumas from behind. That could be the reasoning. But Walsh definitely on the big attack now. He can smell that P2. Nilsson Abranosa having to come into the pits a second time in this race. Might have miscalculated the fuel. Or blown a tire, or maybe he just had to go to the toilet really badly. That are basically the options. As Walsh will be trying everything at this point. Walsh will be on the edge of his seat, or probably tucked all the way into the seat, honestly. But we are on the edge of our seats to see if Liam Walsh can snatch this one away from Jordy Peters. He has just 2.5 laps to go of the 5th and final round of the 9th season of the Simsport Racing International Championship, or GT3 Sprint Championship, we should say, as we've run both endurance and GT4s and everything in between beforehand. 2.4 series as well, with a lot of memorable moments throughout the years. Start finish straight. 2 laps to go. And Walsh have dropped a little bit behind Walsh. Walsh have just dropped a little bit behind the Peters, that's what I was trying to say. Not by a lot though, still within the slipstream range, but enough that Peters can relax a little bit this lap. Meanwhile, Nart Cox actually under severe pressure from the rear, and Milan Dumas behind in the Minotaur Racing Ferrari. Battle for 7th, also going heavily here on the last couple of laps. We did see Nart Cox and Milan Dumas lapping Buckland and Van der Kran earlier, where they were also this close together. Ooh, Dumas, I think that was just a pube hair between the two of them. I mean, a paper's width between the two cars there coming into turn 2. Milan Dumas on the inside. Nart Cox squeezes him and says, "No, you are not going past me. You shall not pass this late in the race." Can Nart really keep it up? Milan Dumas on much fresher tires. I think that is what Nart is struggling with at the minute. Benjamin King also lurking a bit, although we're 13 seconds behind. But if big things happen, then something could go terribly wrong for some of them. But definitely on the attack, Milan Dumas here late on in the race. We know Milan here is a driver who will go for a chance if it presents itself. So this could be where positions could change when they cross the line. One more lap leader have started the final lap a little bit of time ago actually. And white flag is being shown to all of the drivers when they come across the start-finish line. Not the white flag for a slow-moving car, but the white flag to indicate it's the last lap of the race. Can Milan do something about Nart Cox here late on? Highly doubted. Liam Walsh also a little bit too far behind Jordy Peters, like as they come into the final proper overtaking opportunity. Not quite there, so I do think we could say with almost certainty at this point that Peters will take second in the race. Oh, Nart Cox and Milan Dumas have come together. Milan does do the sportsman thing and stay behind Nart Cox, giving the position back. But it doesn't mean that Milan won't try anything later on, as they still have a little bit of a chance. Meanwhile, just behind these two, it's also battling for position between the black and the red Ferrari. Conti and Martin van der Kran. Back here is where it's all happening, but Tesh Fredriksson wins the race as he comes across the line to take win. So now it's no longer just Michael Thomas who have won so far this season. Jordy Peters second, Liam Walsh third, and Michael Thomas comes in to finish in 4th position with the fastest lap. Meanwhile, Dumas still on the attack, even though there are no good overtaking opportunities left, then he could potentially do it out of the final corner because he has so much fresher tires than Nart Cox. For Niemstein 5th, winning 6th. Cox and Dumas are the next cars to pass the start-finish line. We can say now that Skivaligali takes the AIM Championship and Nart Cox secures 7th ahead of Milan Dumas. Van der Kar and Conti, they're very close together over the line. But championships will end like this. Michael Thomas takes the pro class. Patrick Blisters takes the silver class. And Skavaligali takes the AIM class here in the final round. Just a few cars left to finish out this final race of the season. What a great season we have had so far. If we take away the almost certainty of the race winner of Michael Thomas throughout the season, then the rest of it have been super close and tense. Also, Patrick Blisters not starting that good or that well in the silver class, but finishing second in the race to get a respectable final result this season. Great job and great driving all around. As we are sat here waiting to see if any drivers are coming in for putting a few words in their seasons maybe, and whether or not that they are happy with the results. Would expect a lot of them to be so. We know that Milan had a great race, as he's commenting that in the ACC chat on Discord. But let's see if anyone comes in. We'll just give them a few moments, as the drivers in voice chats are definitely just putting quick words on the race together with each other, and those who are solo might just take a little bit of a breather after an interesting race. An interesting season. In general, thank you all for tuning in, at least for all of the races, and hopefully seeing you next season, or already next Wednesday for the LMU Championship. Michael Thomas actually joins us in here, winning 4 out of 5 races, and then 4th in the final one. Were you hoping that you could go up and be the first driver ever to have a perfect season?
Yes and no. I mean, I could have qualied and it would have been a bit, obviously, more competitive, but I was more interested in just having a bit of fun, because this season's been obviously very intense with the likes of Ter behind and Geordie, so I just wanted to try and send it out with a bit of fun. And yeah, it was.
Doing the Nard strat.
Yeah, the Nard strat, yeah.
It looked quite fun. Now that you are a champion once again, are you going into the Jaguar of Shame next season just to make it more fair for the rest of the drivers?
No, I won't be here next season. I will be driving LMU from now on.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Please don't go into hypercar. Please don't go into hypercar.
Yeah, I've seen you winning, so I might have to come and. Nah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm not too sure yet what the future holds, but
should definitely be more than welcome. I think that Regan Mitchell would like to have a little bit of challenge in GT3s as well there.
Yeah, I just got to try and... I'm still just trying to get used to the LMU as a game and just, figure it out. Get faster, and then once I feel like I'm at that level, I can kind of jump in, and we'll see, yeah.
It is a much different game, even though that technically the GT3 cars are almost the same. It is so different driving them on LMU.
Yeah, they feel a lot more agile. The drive, there's a lot more that can kind of go wrong in the braking zones, really. So yeah, it's very technical, and I enjoy that. I feel like ACC is a bit more just you turn the wheel and you go.
Yeah, you turn the wheel and smash the brake.
Yep, exactly.
Basically, and then some of us can obviously smash the brake a little bit better than the rest and turn the wheel slightly better.
That's it, fine margins.
It seems like it, but thank you for the season, and looking forward to seeing you on track in the multi-class racing of LMU. For the people out there, that's every other Wednesday, also on this YouTube channel, where we can go watch the mighty fun of the multi-class racing of Le Mans Ultimate Hypercars and LMGT3s. As we get joined by Wouter Vince and Peter Brookland as well.
Yep, yeah. And thanks for having me. I'm gonna leave the room. GG's to everyone, and thank you for the comms all season, Oliver.
Thank you for coming and making it boring for the win.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye. Peter, you were actually starting with you, Peter, because quite interesting scenario in this race with the battling with Scavaligali then at some point, because if you could have kept Scavaligali behind, then Shukvivart could actually have taken the championship even with the pit stop finish.
Oh, I didn't know the result of the championship. I just drove as a guest, so I didn't want to take too much chances to ruin somebody else's race, you know.
Oh, but it still seemed like you had a pretty fun race out there this evening. A lot of interesting battles, actually. Surprisingly, a lot from the Outlaren, if we have called your car.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it was a nice race, and I'm glad to be back. So I'm gonna be there next season also.
Starting in 2 weeks' time, still going with the DDS Outlaren next season, or changing cars maybe?
I tried some other cars, but no, I'm gonna go with the McLaren. So I'm already slow, so this car is the fastest for me. So
I can perfectly understand that, as I have enjoyed that McLaren also quite a bit in the years that have passed.
I would like to drive the Porsche, but it's too difficult for me. It's just so difficult.
Well, it's never too late to learn a new car, you know.
Yeah, I know. Maybe sometime. We'll see.
Maybe sometime in the future. Next season, will you be aiming for an AM championship? Maybe there, as we think that Shukvivart and Scavaligali will be promoted to silver, or likely silver.
That depends on the new entries. We have seen that some of the new entries each season are very fast, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Surviving a race is more important to me than having the points.
Oh, definitely. But in order to finish first you have to finish. Isn't that what they are saying?
Yeah. No. Sometimes it's difficult that you make mistakes or somebody else makes mistakes. So no, I just want to have fun. That's more important to me than the points.
Oh, definitely. I have the same mentality when I go into races. Nothing worse than just driving alone for an entire race and not anything happening. Except if you can find a good pace, because just getting into the rhythm is also part of the fun of these cars.
I think that's my weak point. My times tend to slow down during the race. I tend to lose concentration or something. I don't know. I practice for it, but yes. I don't know. I just lose pace in the race. Certainly when I drive alone, you have nothing to look forward to. And I start thinking about other things and I lose pace.
I know the feeling. I struggled with the same early on in my racing career, but also joining us in this small compact shed, Wouter Vince from the silver class.
Good morning.
Also a McLaren driver.
Indeed. I must say I have to thank Kyle Busch and his M&Ms, because he brought me some fortune today. After last 2 crappy seasons, finally a decent result. So
you're saying that going from the Outlaren livery to the M&Ms, that is really what made the difference for you this season?
I have to correct you first. It's not the Outlaren, it's the Macaudi. But
it's the Macaudi.
Yeah.
Better.
But it's been a while, because the Macaudi liveries, I designed them for a season, I think 3 or 4 seasons ago. So my last livery was also NASCAR inspired, but by Martin Truex Jr. But the guy has retired, and I don't think he brought me some luck. So back to the M&Ms, and well, they did the trick.
Seems like it. I assume that you will also be staying with the McLaren next season for the team effort.
Yeah, I have been thinking about going back to my first big love when I started driving at SSRI, which was the big boat. But I tried it, and as much as I like it, in the McLaren I'm just so much faster. So yeah, next season back to the McLaren, indeed.
That'll be lovely. Any expectations for next season, finishing roughly in the middle of the silver standings? Do you reckon that you could be up there with the top contenders next time out?
Well, I think 2 seasons ago I showed that depending on the track, I can have some decent pace, like here on Valencia. And I must say, Brands Hatch and Imola are 2 of my favorites and my better tracks. So there is a chance, but it's always a bit of a guess depending on who's driving with us, because some of the silvers are sometimes really off pace, and some are comparable. So, but if at least I can have one decent result, I'll be happy. I've had my fair share of accidents being my own fault of by others, but this race really was a clean one. Kevin Mockery a couple of times gave me a code brown, but in the end he was faster, but he kept it clean, so it was very enjoyable. If every race can be like this, it doesn't matter even if I am last or top 3, if I can have a good race and good fighting, decent fighting, should be like that always, but that's not the case.
Yeah, the only difficulty is your two best tracks coming up early in the season, where the grids are the biggest, and new drivers, as you said, in the championship. That can always be a bit difficult. Are you a little bit scared about that, maybe?
No, not really. We'll see. And if the M&Ms don't bring me luck, then I ditch them for something else. So we'll see.
Yeah, what would something else be? Just asking, maybe a little bit of a sneaky livery reveal-ish.
Well, I started livery on the big boat, but then I'm not driving it. I was thinking about going back as we did a couple of seasons ago on DDS, when some of us were still driving the AMR in 3 different Belgian colors. On one side black, other side red, but this time all NASCAR inspired, so not the John Player special in the Cars film inspired stuff, something new, but we'll see. The McLaren, I'm not sure yet if I'll change it or not, but yeah, we try to drive some original liveries to make it a bit more enjoyable for everyone, also on stream. So yeah.
We enjoy the DDS liveries a lot here on the stream, I must say.
Yeah, or maybe we should go back to one of our first seasons, which was really liked also by you, I think, was when we put on the Belgian flag and plenty of beer advertising for Belgian beers. That might be also something.
It sounds like something that I would like.
Yeah, I thought so.
It does ring a little bit of a bell for me, but
it's long ago. It's long ago. I was still driving the Lexus, so that's another age.
Yeah. The Lexus was a long time ago. That was a competitive car. Still one of the best sounding cars and most fun to drive, though.
Yeah, I'm quite curious. I noticed it's coming to LMU, so who knows, one day.
Yes, I've always said that I'm not touching the GT3s in that game until the Lexus arrives, and that is obviously the last GT3 to come in, so perfect.
Yep, that's how it should be.
Exactly. But anyways, thanks for the season, everyone. Both drivers who have joined us here in the commentary room throughout the season, drivers who have been out there on track, people who have been watching on YouTube. No one more than Chris Hill, the man behind the cameras, the silent man who have made all of this possible for all of us. I hope we see you all next season when we go racing for season 10, the 10th season anniversary, where we wish we could put spikes in the side of the cars to do a proper race there at the end. And remember to tune in next week for the LMU race on Wednesday. I have been Oliver Anderson, Mr. One of Oliver, and joining me behind the cameras all season have been Grandpa Chris Hill. Thank you all, and see you in 2 weeks' time. Do 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 do.